You are listening to Becoming You Again. This is the podcast helping you heal from your divorce and deal with the mental and emotional challenges you face so that you can get on with living the best of the rest of your life. This is Becoming You Again, episode number 218, and I am your host, Karen Nelson. Welcome to Becoming You Again, the podcast where you learn to step into your power as a woman in this world, where you learn to reconnect to your wholeness, your integrity, and bring into alignment your brain, your body, and your intuition after divorce. This is the podcast where you learn to trust yourself again and move forward toward a life that you truly want. You are listening to Becoming You Again, and I am your host, Karen Nelson. Welcome back to the podcast, my lovely, lovely ladies. I am so excited for this episode today. I've got something special in store, so make sure you stick around to the very end. But I'm just so excited to be here. I'm always excited to be here, teaching you, loving you, supporting you, giving you all of the things that you need as you go through your divorce. But I want to give a quick life update. I had just like one of the best experiences a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Okay, so I don't know if I've talked about him on the podcast yet, but we have had over this past winter a cat who has just kind of shown up on our doorstep. He showed up like midwinter. We're in Utah and it gets really cold and snowy here. And so he showed up like on our back doorstep on the deck one day. He's an orange cat. I already have an orange cat named Loki, and I thought that it was my cat Loki at first, and then realized very quickly, because I had just been petting Loki in the other room, that it wasn't Loki. And then he just kind of kept showing up. He'd come to the front door, he'd meow, I'd go out there and pet him or talk to him. He was very vocal and sweet. I just thought maybe he was one of our neighbors' cats, and like they just got him, or I had never seen him before. I didn't really know whose cat he was. But after a couple of weeks of him continuing to come back, he was pretty skinny. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to feed him, see if he's hungry, just put some food out on the porch, some water, see if he wants it. Put some food out, and he literally inhaled the amount of food that I gave him in like 5 minutes. And so right then I'm like, okay, this is not someone's cat, because if it was, he would be getting food at home and he would be going home at night, and he was like sleeping on our porch. We have like these chairs with cushions on our porch, and it's kind of covered from the snow. And I was like, if he had a home, he would be going home, and he's not. He's sleeping on our porch to like stay out of the, the elements of the winter. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe we should just keep feeding him. Like maybe he's kind of adopted us, which I was pretty excited about, because let's be real, I love cats, and I'm just so excited about the idea of being adopted by a cat. They are choosing you. That just is like my dream. So kept feeding him, kept petting him. Slowly, I started introducing him into our home. He's still pretty scared of the other cats, but he would come in and he'd like find a little place behind the couch in the living room or on the couch in the living room. Slowly, he's been like kind of just opening himself up to our life. And so the other week, I was like, okay, it's time to get my cat's vaccines updated. It's been a year. I need to take them. And so I was like, we named him Charlie. So I'm going to take Charlie and get his vaccines as well, just to make sure that he's safe around the other cats. We have raccoons that live, that come out in the summer, and I wouldn't want anyone to get rabies or anything. So just want to make sure they're safe. So take them all to get their vaccines. And while we're there, I'm like, can you check and see if he has a chip? And they're like, oh my gosh, he does have a chip. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like a little nervous, but I'm like, okay, well, he's definitely ours, because nobody has put up signs about a missing cat. Nobody has like come around and said, this is our cat. Can you please stop feeding him? Right. So I'm like just putting my foot down in my head, and I'm like, well, he's our cat. Like we've had him for months now, and he's coming in our house, and we like him, and he's sweet, and he likes us. And so whatever. So we're driving home. My kids and I had come with me, because there's 3 cats, and so it's a lot to like juggle with the vaccines, right? So we're driving home, and I get a phone call. This is a Sunday, by the way. I get a phone call from the chip company, and they're like, hey, we were notified that you have found this cat. His name's Oliver. And I'm like, oh my gosh, someone owns him, and I'm going to have to give him up. And I was feeling so sad and so scared. And they're like, we need your permission to give your information to the person who owns this cat so that they can get in contact with you. And I'm like, talking to my kids. My kids are adults. And so, I talk to them about hard things that I might be going through. Not all hard things, but like this hard thing. And I'm talking to my daughter, and when we get home, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to call him. Like that, we might have to give him up. And I do not want to do that. And then I get another phone call as I'm saying this to my daughter from the chip company again. And they're like, hey, we haven't heard from you. It's literally been like 5 minutes since their first phone call. They're like, hey, we haven't heard from you. And so we contacted the chip owner, the owner of the Oliver, and he said that it would be fine if we give you his information and then you can call him. So they give me his name and his phone number. And I'm like, all right, I have to call him. Because if this situation was opposite and I had lost a cat and someone found it and they didn't call me back, I would be devastated. And so I was like, I can't be that person. So I have to call him. And what comes, come what may, right? Or whatever that saying is. And so I got brave. Like I talk about on some of my podcasts, there was fear behind what I was doing, but I knew that this was the right thing that I needed to do for me. It's aligned with my integrity and all of those things. My daughter was like, I'll stay here and I'll be your moral support mom. And I called him, and he was amazing. And this story, I'm just telling you, is going to blow your mind, because it blew mine in the moments that it was happening. And it's still, as I think about it, is blowing my mind. Okay, so I call him and I tell him that, Charlie came to our house and he just kept showing up, and we've had him all winter. And, I tell him that background. And then this is what he says. He says, I was so surprised to get this call. I lost Oliver, or he disappeared 4 years ago. 4 years ago. 4 years ago. Is your mind blown yet? Because mine was. And I was like, are you even kidding me? 4 years? Where has he been? And he's like, is he a good cat? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, he's so sweet and he's so good. And he seems to really like us and we really like him. And he's like, I think that you should just keep him. I would not want to make things more traumatic for him by bringing him back to my house and having him try to, figure out us again and who I am and living here again. And I wouldn't want to do that to him. And you sound like you really love him, and you sound like you take really good care of him. And it seems like he likes you because he's stuck around. So why don't you just keep him? And I lost it. I started crying. I was so flooded with relief and joy and such incredible selflessness on his part. I just thought it was such a beautiful, incredible moment for me to experience, and so giving of him. I just was like, thank you so much. This means so much to us. We would love to have him be a part of our family. We love him so much and we're so excited. So thank you. And he's like, I already, grieved losing him 4 years ago. So we talked about changing the chip information so that it would be mine and how to do that and all of those things. And we say goodbye. And a couple of minutes later, he calls back and he says, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I reached out to the chip company and now you can call them and here's their information. And then he goes, I'm just curious, where are you located? And I said, I knew he was in Utah because he had the area code that a lot of people in Utah have. So I knew that he was from Utah. I just didn't know where exactly. And I said, hey, I actually live in Fruit Heights, which is just up north and kind of by Farmington. And he said, I live in Midvale. Now, I don't know exactly where Midvale is, but I do know that it is not close to Fruit Heights. It's at least a half an hour away. It's south of where I live, past Salt Lake. Salt Lake is about a half an hour away. And I think out west even from Salt Lake a little bit. I didn't even look it up, but I've heard of it. I've probably been there. It's just one of those surrounding towns of Salt Lake Valley. But it's at least a half an hour away. Okay, so it's nowhere near here. and probably nowhere near where a cat is able to just wander away and then get lost for a couple of years and then show up at somebody's house, a couple blocks away. Not even close. So at this point, both of our minds are blown because we're like, what? You live in Midvale and I live in basically Farmington. How did that even happen? And so he goes on to say, he said Oliver was a really friendly cat, as you kind of know, because he's come around you. And I really think that somebody took him. I think someone took him from us because I can't imagine him trekking up north when he had a home that was safe and where we loved him and fed him and all of those things, right? So at this point, I'm just like, this is the most wild, insane, crazy story ever. And I am just blown away that Charlie has found us, that he loves us, that this man is like, you have him, I've grieved him. He was so happy to know that he was alive and safe, but also that like taken care of and all those things. And like, it was just the most amazing experience. This is a very long story. I'm now realizing I'm like 11 minutes into recording this podcast, but I just wanted you guys to know what's been going on in my life and this beautiful, amazing thing that I have been able to experience. And I have another cat in my life that is like now officially ours because I have changed the chip information. And if anything happens to Charlie and he gets lost, they call me now. Anyway, that's the end of the story for now. He's in my office right now, sleeping on his cat perch as I am recording this. But I needed to share it with you guys because it was such a cool experience. And anyway, I hope that it just kind of starts your day or whatever part of your day that you're listening to this off on a good foot, to know that there is still good out there, even though you might be struggling and things in this world look down a lot of the time. There is still good and good people, giving, loving people. So let's remember that. And now let's jump into the actual podcast episode that I am even more excited to tell you about because there's something really cool that I'm going to tell you about at the end. So don't shut off now, like stick around to the end so you get the really cool thing that I'm going to talk about. So in this episode, I am going to be talking about grief and like the emotional roller coaster of divorce and how grief can truly be hiding in plain sight during our divorce. But again, I'm going to reiterate, stick around to the end because I've got a free gift for you and you are not going to want to miss this. And I'm really excited to tell you about it. So first, let me kind of first touch on some ideas about what grief is and how we can identify what it is in case this is the first time that you are hearing about grief in relation to your divorce. Like I have a lot of episodes about grief, and if you haven't listened to them, go listen to them. But like, I just want to give like a little quick background about grief in relation to divorce, right? Because most of us think that we only experience grief when we have someone we love or who is close to us pass away, right? Like that's the typical time when we're like, yes, that is when I experience grief. Like when my dad passed away last year, I felt a lot of grief around his death. I still do sometimes, right? And so that's the typical experience where we're like, yeah, it's really normal to feel grief and to work through that and to heal with it as we move on with our life, right? But here's the reality that I really want to emphasize and that I want you to remember about grief. Anytime your perception of reality doesn't match what's actually going on in your life, what the actual reality is in your life, you have permission to grieve. You have permission to feel grief over that. So in other words, you're going through a divorce and you never thought that you'd get divorced. Well, you're allowed to grieve that. You thought that you were going to be in love with this person forever, and now your feelings about this person have changed. You have permission to grieve that. You thought that your family was just forever going to look like mom, dad, kids, and we all live in the same roof and we all get along, and then the kids move out, and then I just grow old with this person and we live together, and then I die in my sleep, right? Whatever we think our life is going to be. And now you're going through a divorce and your ex is moving out and you're splitting time with the kids. Guess what? You are allowed to grieve that. whatever your perception of reality was, and then your reality doesn't actually meet that idea, you are allowed to grieve over that. So give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling as you go through this divorce process. You don't have to judge yourself and tell yourself things like, well, I asked for this divorce, and so I shouldn't be feeling sad, or I shouldn't be feeling angry or uncertain, and I definitely shouldn't be grieving. No, we are not doing that. You absolutely should be feeling whatever you're feeling. Let it be. And there are some other myths about grief that I think can be really helpful to understand when it comes to grief and when it comes to your divorce and the things that you're feeling. And I'm not really going to go into depth about these things specifically in this episode, but if you haven't listened to these episodes, episode number 152 and episode number 111, I talk about those myths in depth. I talk about grief in depth. And so go listen to those after you finish this episode, because you don't want to miss out on the cool prize. It's not a prize, but the cool gift that I'm going to give you. But yeah, I'll go into a lot more detail in those episodes. So go listen to those after this one. But let me just give a brief reminder, okay? Grief has no specific stages that you must go through in order to heal. Grief is not linear. It's not some arbitrary number of years that you must feel it and then you'll finally feel good. And there's just really no specific steps that you're going to take and then be like, okay, I did all of the steps and now I don't feel grief anymore. Now I've healed and I'm good and I'll never feel grief ever again. That's just not how grief works. And you should know that in case you've had those expectations and you're like, what is going on? Why do I still feel so bad? Right? So feeling grief and the process of healing with our grief, it's different for everyone. It truly is. And I think that's an important distinction to make, because the tendency for us is to think, well, I'm feeling these types of things through my divorce and during my divorce, and my friend who went through a divorce, she didn't feel any of this stuff, or she didn't struggle with any of this stuff, or she didn't react in this way, and so I must be doing it wrong. There's something wrong with me. I have clients who say things like this in our sessions, and my response is typically always, no. You are not doing it wrong. You are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. Your process of moving through grief and the emotional roller coaster that you're feeling, that is unique to you. Not uncommon, definitely not uncommon, but it's unique to you. And you're not doing it wrong. You can't do your healing process wrong. So let's give yourself some grace and some understanding as you go through your own unique healing process, right? But we all go through a process. Just because mine doesn't look like yours doesn't mean I am not going through my own process of healing. And it can be tricky to know what our process is supposed to look like, or will look like, or should look like, because society is telling us all types of things. And this kind of goes back to those myths that you want to go find out more about. But society will say stuff like, well, you're going to go through the 5 stages. And I'm not saying that there's not 5 stages, but those 5 stages were put into place typically for people who are going through the loss of a loved one after they pass on. And again, doesn't mean you're going to go through all stages. It just means look out for these things. You might be feeling them in this way, right? So society's like, you're going to go through these 5 stages, or you'll feel bad for half the amount of time that you were in the relationship. So if you were in a relationship for 20 years, give yourself 10 years and then you might heal. That's crazy. We're not even going to give that one the time of day that society wants us to take on, right? Or, well, sorry, but you left the marriage, you broke the marriage vows, you're not allowed to feel sad, or you're not allowed to feel grief, or you're not allowed to feel angry, or whatever, right? I hear this all the time. Come over to TikTok, follow me on TikTok at Karen Nelson Coaching. I get some real crazy comments on some of my videos, and that's a lot. That's a very common one. You broke the vows, you asked for the divorce, you're not allowed to feel blah, blah, blah. No, guess what? You are allowed to. You can feel grief, sadness, depression, anxiety, frustration, anger, all of the things and more, and you're allowed to. Okay? And so the more we can let go of what society tells us about how to feel and what we should be feeling and what it means for us, what we're allowed to feel and what we're not allowed to feel, the more we get to decide for ourselves what it looks like, what it feels like, how we move through it. And whatever your process is for grief, it's okay. You're doing it right. Whatever it feels like and whatever it looks like for you, you are not doing it wrong. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. I just want you to know that, okay? But here's the really fascinating thing about grief. The first thing is that grief isn't like one specific emotion. And so, like, quick reminder, when I talk about emotions, when I talk about feelings, those words are interchangeable, but it's typically like the one word descriptor, okay? It's the descriptor that you're feeling in your body, like sad, angry, frustrated, lonely, anxious, upset. It can also be like positive ones too, right? Happiness, peace, joy, all those too. But the thing about grief is it isn't like just one emotion. Grief isn't just the emotion that you feel. It's like a whole gambit of emotions all at once, or sometimes it comes in succession, or sometimes they're bouncing back and forth between some or one or a couple. I often will refer to this experience as an emotional roller coaster, right? We might be feeling some anger one day or for a few days in a row, and then we'll have a touch of sadness, and then we'll feel more neutral, and then we might feel like some connection, and then we might feel like a moment or two of happiness or clarity, and then boom, out of nowhere, that emotional roller coaster shows up. And you're like, I was walking through Target and I was checking out the new coffee mugs and the kitchen essentials, and I was feeling pretty good, pretty even keeled, and then it's like this emotional roller coaster just like took off. And without even realize it, I'd stepped back on that emotional roller coaster and I just felt immediate sadness or the gravity of my situation and how different my life looks. And then all of a sudden I found myself like beelining it out of the Target into my car before the tears started flowing, right? Like, have you had an experience like that? You're just like doing your thing, driving to work, and then all of a sudden you're like, boom, song comes on, hits you out of nowhere, you lose it, you're just like sad or depressed or feeling all of these things, and you're like, I was doing so good, why did this have to happen, right? You're confused, and you're like, what the actual fuck? I was doing all of the tools, and I was finally feeling better, and I was getting in a groove in my life, and I thought, I'm doing great. I've done all the work, and I'm feeling really good, and I thought that I've learned these things, and I'd moved past this. Why am I still feeling sad or angry or upset? Why am I feeling bad again? I don't want to be here again, right? What am I doing wrong? These are the things that we say to ourselves, right? And my love, what I want you to know is this is grief. This is part of the process. When it hits you out of nowhere, just like that, that is very normal. You are not doing it wrong. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You didn't use the tools incorrectly. You didn't heal properly and now you've started over. Like, none of those things are true. You're on the emotional roller coaster loops after being like, for a while you were on maybe like a straight or a downward slope or an even keel. And then now you're going through a loop of that emotional roller coaster, right? Nothing has gone wrong. This type of thing where things are going good, you're feeling like okay one moment, and then the next day you wake up and you're just sad all day. Or you're angry about seemingly everything, or you're miserable about your kids being at their dad's. Like, this is all so normal. And it happens to all of us going through a divorce. So I want to normalize that for you. You are not alone in feeling this way or having these moments where you're doing good and then feeling like all of a sudden you're feeling bad and you're like, I've done all of this work to heal myself and now I feel like I'm starting over. Now I feel like I'm just back at square one. Like, we all feel this way, and it's not true also. You're not going backwards in your healing process. This is part of the forward movement of healing. This is just what the process looks like, right? It's not linear. And the specifics of like how I deal with it and how you deal with it, it might look different from one person to the next, but the process is the same for all of us. We all feel it in whatever way we feel it, right? And so you can set down that judgment of yourself that you're doing it wrong or you haven't healed or that you're broken in some way. No, none of that's true. We all experience this. We all move through our healing and our grief process in our own unique way. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. We all have this emotional roller coaster type of experience. And so, dun, da, 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 drum roll, please. Here is the amazing free gift that I have for you. If you want it, if you want to take advantage of it. Of course, you don't have to. Like, this is just, if you want it, go for it. It's free. Why not, right? Okay, so because I know that so many of us are going through divorce and we find ourselves on this roller coaster of emotions, the ups and downs, the feeling good and then out of nowhere feeling bad, I have created a free guide of what to expect when divorcing. It is the ultimate guide to dealing with the emotional roller coaster of divorce. Now, this guide is going to be really, really useful to you because I'm going to go into detail about why you experience the emotional roller coaster during divorce. And I'm going to get like a little science-y about like the brain and what's going on in your brain and your body. So if you really are like kind of a nerd, which by the way, I love that you're nerdy if you are, because that's amazing. And so stick with that. I'm not saying it in a bad way. If you like to nerd out in that way about what's going on in your body and what's going on in your brain and understanding it from that perspective, you are going to love this guide because I go into that and you're going to understand like the emotional shifts and why that's happening. And if that is not your thing and you're just like, no, I do not understand that. I hated science in high school. Please don't make me read this. Don't worry. Because I also take the sciencey things that are more nerdy and I break them down in very easy ways to understand, very easy terms. So don't worry, it's in there for both of you. We got the nerd stuff and like the I hate that, just tell me like in easy to understand way, because that's more like me. I'm like, please just like tell me in like normal human terms what that means. I got that in there for you too. But the really beautiful thing that I am really most excited to give you in this guide is I'm going to give you the 5 most common situations where you will find yourself on the roller coaster of emotions during divorce. Like 5 experiences during divorce that you are most likely going to have and where you're going to be feeling fine. And then all of a sudden, one of these situations comes up and boom, you feel crappy, you feel set off, you feel upset, you feel angry, you feel sad, whatever, right? I want you to imagine how good it's going to feel to know ahead of time that these situations will happen. And now you know what to expect and that you're probably going to feel pretty shitty when this thing comes up, when it happens to you. And you're going to feel a little more prepared in that way so that you don't feel surprised or blindsided when the roller coaster of emotions hits, because you're gonna be like, oh, yep, see, Karen told me about this. Like this thing was gonna happen. She said, look out for this. This situation's gonna come up for you. And you're probably gonna hit a roller coaster of emotions during this time. It's totally normal, totally fine. But that's not all. I don't just stop there and tell you the 5 things to expect. The really cool thing is after I tell you the 5 things, and by the way, it's not, I talk about this in the guide, but it's not like a complete list. There's lots of things, but you're going to be better at recognizing the other things that are like unique to you. These are just 5 things that like happen to basically every woman who goes through a divorce, okay? But I also give you 3 different tools to support yourself through these situations so that when you start to feel bad, you have these tools right at the ready, right at your fingertips, so that you can support yourself and you can start to feel better immediately. So you don't have to stay on the roller coaster of emotions, right? You'll know what to expect. and then what to do for yourself so you can step off the emotional roller coaster faster onto solid ground and start feeling better. And this guide is completely free, just for you. You can download it today, right now, if you want. And what's really, really, really cool, I keep saying that there's a lot of cool stuff about this, but I gotta tell you, it's really cool because I have created a PDF version, which would be expected with a guide, right? But also, I've recorded the whole thing just like I do with a podcast, and I've created an audio version as well that you can download that's also free. You can have both. You can choose one or the other, doesn't matter. You have access to both of them. So if you're just really busy, and I know the majority of you out there listening to this are, because we as women take on a lot and we're very busy, right? And you just do not have time to sit down and read through this guide, and you're like, I can do much better if I can just listen to it. There you go. Boom. Got it. Just for you. You can download the MP3 right to your phone, listen while you make dinner or drive to work or whatever. When you go for a walk, doesn't matter. You choose. But if you are someone who likes to sit in your bed at night and read and kind of study things to kind of calm your brain, then guess what? You have access to the PDF version, and you can just download it on your phone or on your iPad or on your computer, or print it off if you want, and sit down and reference it as much as you would like. Or, there's a third option here, guys. If you're like me and you like to read the PDF, like the printed version, and follow along while you listen, you also have that option too. I love to do that with Audible. And then I get the book, and then I go buy the book, the hard copy book at the store. And then I read the book while I'm listening to the audio version. I love doing that. It's my favorite thing. So you have all of the options, right? Whatever works best for you. I got you. Okay. So the real question is, how do you get the guide? There are several ways. It's very easy. You can click the link in the description of this podcast right now. Wherever you're listening, go to the description, click that link. You can go to my website, www.karennelsoncoaching.com. Karen with an I. Remember that. It's Karin. Don't forget the I, because it's not the typical way where you spell Karen. So you can go to my website. It's right there on the main page. Just kind of scroll down a little bit. It's right there. Click it, get it. Boom, you're good. You can come to me on Instagram at Karen Nelson Coaching, and you can click the link in my bio. Boom, right there at your fingertips. Or if you're like, I don't like any of those ways, I don't even want to set my phone down or go, I'm not on Instagram and I'm blah, blah, blah. Just email me. Email me, Karen at KarenNelsonCoaching.com. I will email you the link, and you can do it from your phone right there. There are so many ways to get this free guide. And if you know someone who is going through a divorce, like you're going through a divorce, maybe your friend from childhood you found out is also going through a divorce, and you're like, oh my gosh, they need this guide, because I was just talking to them the other day and they are feeling exactly this. They are on that emotional roller coaster. I've moved past it a little bit or whatever. Or you just are like, I'm going to use this and I think they could really use this. Share this episode with them. Text them this episode and say, listen, you've got to get this. It's going to help you. Let's get it together and we'll do it. We'll go through it together. That sounds fun. I just barely thought of that, but that sounds amazing. Go through it with your friend and then talk about it, and then compare what your process looks like and what their process looks like and the tools you're going to, okay. And now I'm going crazy, but here we go, right? Either way, go get the guide, download it in all those different places, or email me and I'll send you a link. But my friends, you are worthy of healing. You are worthy of feeling whatever it is that you're feeling and not judging yourself for it. And you are allowed to know what to expect, and then to have tools available to support you through that, through your healing process. Okay? Thank you so much for being here. If no one has told you today, I love you. I think you are amazing. You've got this. I will be back next week. Hi friend, I'm so glad you're here and thanks for listening. I wanted to let you know that if you're wanting more, a way to make deeper, more lasting change, then working one-on-one with me as your coach may be exactly what you need. Together, we'll take everything you're learning in the podcast and implement it in your life with weekly coaching, real life practice, and practical guidance. To learn more about how to work with me one-on-one, go to KarenNelsonCoaching.com. That's www.KarenNelsonCoaching.com. Thanks for listening. If this podcast agreed with you in any way, please take a minute to follow and give me a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. And for more details about how I can help you live an even better life than when you were married, make sure and check out the full show notes by clicking the link in the description.